Well, Pope Leo has celebrated Barcelona's famous Sagrada Familia Basilica, holding a mass and ceremony to inaugurate its newest tower. The procession also marked the centenary of the death of its architect, Antoni Gaudí, and drew more than 100,000 people to the streets of Barcelona. Professor Mark Burry is a world-renowned architect who has carried out extensive work on the Sagrada Familia, and he joins me now from Adelaide. Professor Burry, good to have you with us. It's a privilege. Now, so another piece of this church has been inaugurated and blessed by the Pope. What's the significance of the completion of the what's called the Jesus Christ Tower?
Well, it's traditionally the topping out ceremony of any building is when the roof's finished. So obviously the cross at the top of the highest tower of the Sagrada Familia is a major stepping stone into the future of the building. It's one of several finishing points, but it's the major one because it is the top of the building, and it is the highest religious building in the world.
As you allude to, there is more to go, isn't there? It isn't 100% complete. So what's left to be finished at the Sagrada Familia?
The missing component mainly is the main facade, which is the glory facade, which would be right at the end of the building facing the sea. That's quite an important component, but as I like to remind everybody, many of the great medieval cathedrals didn't get their main facades until some time later. Barcelona Cathedral, which I think is 1200 onwards, didn't get it's 2 kilometers away from the Basilica. It didn't get its facade until the beginning of the 20th century, in fact. So it's problematic because it doesn't quite fit on site. Extends over the road. There are apartment blocks in the way. So there is a social polemic about what's going to happen for that. But the plans already, that was the last part of the building that my team worked on when we finished in 2016. So a while yet.
A while yet. Now, you've had a long association with the ongoing construction of this church dating back to 1979. Tell us more about the work that you've undertaken and what are some of your favorite moments?
The favorite moments are when any part of it's complete. My good fortune was to ask a couple of questions of the two 90-year-old architects who had known Gaudi when they were young practitioners, and he was coming to the end of his life. I had two questions for them which intrigued them, which is where was their authority to continue the building if all his drawings had been burnt? And also, even if they knew what he wanted to do, how do you explain that to builders? It's an undrawable building. And it turned out that the drawings, whilst important, were not crucial. What was crucial were these large-scale plaster models at 1 to 25 and 1 to 10. And these plaster models contained the secrets of what he intended to do for the rest of the building. He realized, obviously, that he was going to not survive until its completion. And so my job was to unpack that. Sorry, I was invited by the two 90-year-olds to be an intern. So it was just good fortune at the moment that they themselves were confronted with what was Gaudi going to do with the main part of the building. I was there ready to join the team, which was a team of two. I became the third architect.
So, from your interactions with those two students of Gaudi, what did we learn about him? In terms of the kind of person that he was and his sort of what's inspired him in his architecture.
So every interpretation of Gaudi has to be very personal because nobody's alive today who knew him. He didn't write anything about his theory. So it's just the work itself and the various stories that emanated from his so-called disciples. What I learned about him was that for most of his career, he was a sculptor working at architectural scale. And that didn't work out well for him. A lot of his buildings were actually quite disastrous for clients. Park Güell, which everybody thinks is a magnificent park, in fact, is a failed gated community because it was meant to have 60 homes in it and it's only got 2. So the Sagrada Familia came at a point at the last 12 years of his life, rather, he realized he had no more secular commissions, but he also realized that this was an enormous task. Just a few percent of it had been completed after, his 30 years then. So I think he became an architect. He had to think of a way to communicate to a broader team. And so in the last 12 years, he was forced to change his working style and started using complex geometries. And that's why there was something to unpack. Even though the models were broken, the secrets were there.
And from your point of view, when tourists go to visit the basilica there in Barcelona, it's such an iconic structure. It's everyone says it is a must visit when you do go to Barcelona. What's your advice to tourists to best appreciate this wonder of the world, and what should we be looking out for?
Well, the first one is to book early. It's impossible to arrive there, and we're very unlikely to get a ticket. So there's an official website, and there's lots of other websites. So if you're Googling, trickle down and find the official website, buy your tickets early, and then just be prepared for a shock of a lifetime if you haven't been in it before. It's enormous from the outside, but it is way bigger from the inside. It is absolutely awe-inspiring. It's the color and the light and the space is just, there's nothing like it. So if you're going to Barcelona, definitely go to the Sagrada Familia. Get inside it. It's not enough to see it from outside. Try and get there in the late afternoon on a sunny day, because that's when the light is at its most spectacular. It comes in from the west and just fills the building with light.
Okay, late afternoon on a sunny day. I'll keep that in mind when I do go visit. Just finally, with the building this magnificent, does a feat like this by Gaudi and those who've worked on it inspire architects who do go and visit there?
There's no Gaudi style. I think anybody who tries to imitate Gaudi, and there's plenty of things around the world to see, are not going to get very far. What we learned from Gaudi is a kind of holism. He was absolutely influenced by nature, not just what nature looks like, but how it is, how it operates. And he brought those lessons into his architecture. He is a consummate architect, whether it's the engineering, whether it's the decoration, the philosophy, the construction techniques, evoking history, as well as looking at the future. I don't know any other architect who's able to do the whole palette of talents that are required in any great architectural work.
Okay, Professor Mark Burry, it's been fascinating getting that insider's insight from you on this basilica. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Girish.